the first team that we're going to talk about here in our NFL draft roundup here from the NFC East, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. Did I say Beagles? Oops, I said that wrong. Oh, I feel bad now.
Womp.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't feel bad at all. I take it back. I don't feel bad. And the Eagles guys, they've been doing pretty good at the draft for the last few years, obviously. I mean, they get the credit, it seems, after every single draft of, oh my God, they did so amazing. They did so great. Blah, 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 blah. Let me kiss their butt. This is what they had for breakfast. They tasted
right
amazing
off the
second
Eagle
time.
canola.
Oh my God. It's like the only ones that I feel like get that level of respect every single draft is the Ravens. The Ravens people always love their drafts as well. And I got to say, I don't hate what the Eagles did. That's not me saying that. I'm just saying, guys, get over it. You don't have to kiss their butts. They're obviously, a good team, as much as we hate to say that because we're Giant fans. They're a good team. Good teams tend to draft well.
Yeah.
That's how they became a good team. Crazy thought. It's insanity.
Yeah.
So, first off, we have what was basically, I'll say at a point blank as a Giant fan, one of the steals of the entire draft here, getting in the first round at pick 22 overall, Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. Now, when we did our top corners in this draft, he was our number one. Now, most people had a 1 or 2. There was a flip-flop between him and Arnold a lot of times. But you're getting a top-tier corner in this draft at the end of the first round. That's unheard of. That's crazy. I was almost thinking in my head when he was still available so late, is someone going to trade up from the second round to get back into that first round to get him?
I mean, it was also a very unprecedented first half of the draft, like ever.
All offense.
Yeah. The first half of the offense, I think, first half of the draft, I think 3 defensive players were taken in the first 16 picks. So, like, yeah.
Well, the first 12 were all offense. I mean,
well, the first 12, half of them were quarterbacks.
I know, God,
like,
I still can't believe that. I still can't.
We're talking crazy talk here.
Yeah. So anyway, Quinyon Mitchell, again, out of Toledo, which you would have thought a top tier CB out of Toledo, but there he is. Just and 6 foot even, 191 pounds, 22 years old. Last year, 41 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, interception, 18 passes deflected, and a 91.5 PFF grade. Now, again, he played PFF grade against Toledo competition. So I don't think it's necessarily carries over to that great if you played at a legit school, a legit conference. But he crushed it at the Senior Bowl, guys. Absolutely crushed it. And we talked about this going into the draft. The Eagles were going to be looking at getting a corner because of the fact that they are overpaying for geriatric corners. Like, if these guys play any longer,
did not produce last year.
Yeah, if these guys play any longer, they're going to end up on like the senior NFL league, if there was such a thing. It's like
they're going to collect the ARP card as they're playing in the NFL.
It's getting insane. And the crazy thing is they're still not paying them a ton of money. I shouldn't even say it that way. When I say paying a lot of money, that money's still coming. They can't even cut them because of how much money they owe these guys. So they went in and totally tried to revamp their defensive back room, basically. And, obviously they got Ringo last year from Georgia as well. And they're on that mission. They're going to determine to try to fix that because let's be honest, we talked about it going into last year when we played them. Mac Jones threw for 300 yards in this team, guys. Mac Jones.
Yeah.
That's not good. And a lot of their issues in the second half was they couldn't stop offenses. The Giants trashed them. Again, I hate to say that negatively because, we're a Giants podcast, but let's be honest, guys. We're not we trashed them kind of offense last year. Who knows what we are this year, but last year we were certainly not we trashed them type of offense.
And you're top 5 offense. Yeah, let's put that opposite. That's what we were.
basically top, but bottom 5 at that point. Plays obviously outside, played a little bit there in the slot. Our pros and cons list from our profile was pros were size, very fluid, physical, instinctive, and yeah, again, we just put all of the pass deflections. Again, you got 18 pass deflections last year, 19 the prior. That's legit, guys. There's you can talk about the what he's playing against as far as talent wise all you want. Cut that in 2/3, it's still damn impressive. As far as the cons, the big thing is not an aggressive tackler. Especially in the run game. You also got the fact that he's going to have a learning curve because of the difference in that size school. It's almost like when the really, really smart kid skips a grade. Like there's gonna be a little bit of a learning curve in the very beginning. But if he's as good as I think he's gonna be when that curve is over, he's gonna be impressive. And again, I hate to say it, guys. I really do. I want him to fall flat in his face because he's an Eagle. But this kid's gonna be special, I think. This kid's gonna be the guy that later on we look back in the draft. How the hell did this guy last to 22? That's where I think he's gonna be.
Yeah, this is now, I guess, technically a third off season. We started,
Yeah, it's actually second off season because we started our first year was week 1 of the preseason. So we really do off season coverage.
But we've talked about how great I don't want to say how great, but I have to say it that way. The Eagles draft.
Yeah.
That's just, and you said earlier, that's just what they do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we said a top 15 pick for this guy, and they got him at 22. That's a freaking steal, guys. And we said top 15 pick because we anticipated the run on offensive players. Most years, this guy would be a top 10 pick easily. So,
correct.
Like I said, they got an absolute steal. And then they go into the second round, guys, and go with 40th overall, Cooper DeJean. But we'll just call it DB because who knows what he's going to play, corner, safety, whatever. He's got that kind of versatility. But here's the guy.
We thought probably going to be back and forth between the two.
Yeah. We said late first, early second for him. That's early second, obviously, is where he ends up going. They traded up to get him. 6'1", 207 pounds, 21 years old there out of Iowa. Last year, 10 games, 41 tackles, 2 interceptions, 5 passes deflected, and a 77.4 PFF grade. Played mostly on the outside there, but just a little like 2 plays a game, you'd be on the slot, and that's it. So, pros on him was very athletic, instinctive, tracks the ball, great in run defense. The cons was hard of sticking on twitchy receivers and overly aggressive going downhill sometimes. This is a guy that, listen, you call him what you want, DB, safety, corner, whatever. He's a player. This is actually another very good pick at this point. Again, they're trying to revamp their secondary. They get who we think is the best corner in the draft. They get a very good DB. Like I said, I don't know what you want to call him because some people will like shoot you for calling him a corner, and some people will shoot you for calling him a safety. I don't care where you play him. He's a football player. He's a damn good one. That's all it boils down to in the end.
Yeah, listen, he could play half the year one position, half the year the other. As long as he plays the full year, which he's probably going to do.
He's going to probably play both positions in the same game. They'll move him around.
That's what I'm saying. It's a win.
He's going to be a chess piece, point blank. So, like I said, I'll give them credit for those first 2 picks. Those are damn good picks. I hate to say it, guys, but I'm trying not to take my Giants cap off here, but not because I've had hair. And I'm trying to, give you guys the honest news of what's going. Oh, you see lack thereof? Wow. You made a bald joke. I still have some. Okay, I still have some. It may not be much. You just wait, okay?
I waited.
Yeah, you don't have as much you used to either, jerk.
That's not true at all. I might have more of a hairline going forward than I did, 20 years ago.
You're being mean. Anyway, next up for them, the 3rd round pick, number 94th overall. Jalyx Hunt, outside linebacker from Houston Christian. Very, very small school. Obviously, we're talking here. There's going to be a couple of guys you guys are going to hear in this whole podcast here about small school guys.
It was on a
And
wish and a Hail Mary.
here's one that I gotta say I will disagree on with them. So as a Giant fan, I'm not upset with them taking him. We didn't have him rated. Now, keep in mind when it comes to outside linebackers and linebackers as a whole, we specifically rated.
I'm gonna come.
What?
Sorry.
What is this? Do not come. Do not come. I don't know what that's.
Okay. I'm gonna come.
Oh, don't do that, please. Not that kind of podcast.
Well, listen, hey Jay, if you donate $5 to buy me a coffee.
Whoa. Anyway, we didn't rate guys in the linebacker group purely based on how they are linebackers. We rated just the off-ball linebackers that would fit a 3-4 defense. So just because we didn't rate him doesn't mean he's not a good player. But 6'3", 252 pounds. I tried to find some information on age there. I couldn't find an exact birth date there. As far as the pros and cons for him, good size, good length, naturally fits the position as far as you want. The athletic traits and all the size, everything just it's there. Extremely athletic. And that's going to be a theme you're going to see here with some of these teams here. They're going for athleticism as opposed to actual production. As far as his cons, struggles in the run game. Extremely raw because he comes from an extremely small school. When's the last time you heard of a guy being drafted out of Houston Christian?
Jeez.
Especially the 3rd round. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you might hear that in the 6th or 7th round, but my goodness.
Now, here's his stats last year, because this is what I go and get all confused because, guys, when you draft a guy in the 3rd round from Houston Christian, he better have like 200 tackles and 12 sacks and like 5 interceptions. Crazy numbers. You're facing Christian University opposition. Like, here's his numbers: 10 games, 46 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, 1 interception, 3 passes deflected, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. Not horrible.
Yeah.
But not 3rd round from Houston Christian. Good.
Sounds terrible.
Now, I look at the prior year as well. Better numbers. 11 games, 87 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 2 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery. I can't sit there and say that's a guy that even with those stats, I look at and go, oh, I know he went to Houston Christian, but whoa, got to get that guy in the 3rd round.
Yeah, it seems like a little bit of a
reach. It's definitely a reach. Yeah. Yeah. I gotta say I'm a bit confused by that one overall as a whole there. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Listen, guys, I try to give you guys pros and cons with everybody, regardless of if they or somebody who's going for the, Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Commander. I want to give you guys honest information. This one just, and I know they're not the only ones who had this guy rated so high. I get the physical traits were absolutely amazing, but you couldn't even dominate a Houston Christian.
Yeah, listen,
I have a win the 3rd round. I get him in the 5th or 6th round.
Yeah, listen, I have a good friend that's 6'8". Some days he's 6'9". And he's 385 pounds. Depends how much he lays down on the end of the day because he's so tall, it kind of compresses a little bit more. But he's also like 385 pounds. So like,
oh yeah, he is.
It's a big dude.
So I know who you're talking about. He's a big dude, and that's me saying it.
Yep. Wouldn't draft him to a team. Just because you got the attributes, like, love you, bud. You're not a football player.
It's like I said, it's a little crazy to me, but It is what it is. That they thought that. They obviously saw something they liked. Again, they've been right before drafting, but they've been wrong before drafting. So this might be one where they're wrong because that's what we think. But who knows? Maybe he develops into a decent player, but it's going to take a couple of years to do that. And to draft a guy like that in the third round, to me, just seems insane. So,
yeah.
All right. Next up, they had in the fourth round, pick number 127 overall, Will Shipley, running back out of Clemson. Now, we talked about him during our pre-draft show there with the running backs. We had him ranked as our 10th best. So 5'11", 206 pounds, 21 years old. A guy that is going to be a decent backup running back, we think. So last year, 14 games, 210 rushes, 1,182 yards, the 5.6 yards per carry average, 15 touchdowns, 38 receptions, 242 yards. Now, they got a backup running back spot open, guys, because they went ahead. If you saw the news lately, which we should probably announce because Giant fans are going to love hearing this one, Boston Scott is no longer a Philadelphia Eagle.
He went bye.
He's officially a Los Angeles Ram.
I was going to say he's going to be sticking it to the Seahawks.
So, yeah. So you got a guy who was a giant killer, no longer able to kill the Giants. That's great news right there. But this is a decent replacement for him. I don't think this guy's going to be a guy that you ever see as a 1,000-yard rusher. I think he's a guy that you might see as part of a stable there. So we'll lose Rob here momentarily. He had to take care of something real quick. He'll be right back. Pros on him, we had tough, great vision, can bounce outside when needs to, high football IQ, good receiver. On the cons, smaller and poor breakaway speed. So he's the guy that you see him take a 10-yard run and somebody's going to come up from behind and stop him before he goes, 30, 40 yards down the field at that point. So would love to see, a good shot on him at that point there in that scenario, whatever happens. But again, a decent pick for a fourth round guy, a guy that you're going to put in the stable of running backs at that point. You can't start counting him to be a starter, to be a beast kind of guy, but not a bad pick. I'll say that one there is not a bad pick. So that's 3 out of 4 so far for them that I don't think are bad picks necessarily. Next up, fifth round, pick number 152 overall, Anias Smith, a wide receiver out of Texas A&M, 5'10", 200 pounds, 22 years old, but he does turn 23 next year. This past year, 12 games, 53 receptions, 795 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 rushes, 21 yards, and a 77.1 PFF grade there. So again, fifth round pick. You're not going to expect 13, 1,400 yards at that point. What you're expecting is a guy who either dominated a small school or a guy who did okay at a big school. And this is an okay job at a decent sized school here. His pros, versatile. You can move him around the field a little bit there. Great yak. The guy's also explosive. This guy gets off the line real quick. He's got a really good vision too as well. That's part of what helps him with that yak there. So if you get him in a spot where he's got some open field, he knows where to go, where the lanes are going to be at that point. He's got that kind of vision. He also helps out on special teams, which obviously a fifth round pick, it's where they make their calling a lot of times. It's not the receiving as much as the special teams. As far as the cons for medical wise there, he actually fractured his leg in 22. So when he had 4 games he played overall, didn't do bad in those 4 games. So had 291 yards at that point. But you can see the production, 291. So let's call it 300 in 4 games. Times that by 3. That's 900 yards in 12 games. He did just under 800 this past season. So the production was a little bit down per game from last year, coming back from that injury. But you got to keep an eye on that. You got to trust your medical team at that point. And obviously the Eagles, I'm sure, looked at that. He's not a very strong player there. I hate seeing you use the word weak whenever we talk about these guys, but he definitely, couldn't hurt him to bulk up a little bit there. He's a guy that also does need to be potentially schemed if you want to make routes and plays specifically with his skills in mind. Because again, he's got the athleticism, but because of the issue with his strength, he does have trouble. He gets stuck on press. So if you have a team that does press man coverage and you have somebody on him at that point that's really got that good pop in the first couple yards, he's going to have trouble with that there. Again, fifth round pick, gave some value to Texas A&M. I can't knock him for the pick at that point there. Not a bad pickup there. I don't think this guy's going to, light it up in the league necessarily. But again, that's not what you're expecting out of a 5th round pick. You're hoping for somebody who just makes the team at that point, provides something for it there. Next up for them, 5th round pick for the Eagles, 155 overall. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., continuing the family tradition at that point there. You got a linebacker who is the son of a former Eagle linebacker now. We talked about him on our linebacker special we did there. We had him going like 3rd or 4th round there. So it's a pretty decent pick for them, I thought. I was kind of shocked he dropped there at that point. I'm kind of wondering if there's something medical or so that the public wasn't necessarily aware of, or if he just really stunk in the interviews, because I really did have him going much higher. 6 foot even, 230 pounds, 21 years old. This past season, 12 games, 88 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, including 1 for a touchdown, 5 passes deflected and 2 forced fumbles, 85.7 PFF grades. They liked him a lot too as well. As far as the pros and cons we listed there, pros, downfield speed, good blitzer, good tackler, great in zone coverage, and a high football IQ. Again, obviously, when you talk about these second generation guys, they grew up in a football home. They grew up with not just their dad, but other football players around them. They typically get a decent football IQ because they're taught things from a very young age, and they have access to teaching skills and stuff that a lot of players don't have as kids and don't get till they reach like college level at that point there. So as far as the cons, trouble getting off blocks, tends to overrun plays at times, can get beaten to the outside, just lacks some of that top end quickness to go laterally there. He's also, we talked about being great in zone coverage. He does have trouble, though, in man coverage, mostly because he's a little bit small and he's a little bit slow. Not a good combo when you look at a good man coverage there. But again, we had him as a 3rd, 4th round kind of guy. And this is a guy you may see on the field because, remember, this team had a lot of linebacker issues last year. It's not just the secondary, a lot of linebacker issues. So I don't think this guy's going to be a Pro Bowl level kind of guy, but I do think he's a starting caliber linebacker. So I think for them getting him in the 5th round, to be honest, I think it's a freaking steal for them. Again, I hate to give them credit, but it's a damn good pick for them, I think. Their last 5th round pick, because they just had a ton of 5th round picks, guys, was pick number 172 overall, Trevor Keegan, guard out of Michigan. We had him ranked as our 6th best guard. Now, keep in mind, though, this is not a good inside offensive line draft that we just had. We had him going as a day 3 pick. So we had him going where we expected him to go overall. 6'6", 320 pounds, 23 years old. Played in 11 games in 22, 15 in 23 there with a 68.6 PFF grade. Left guard was his spot there. Good size, good fundamentals, good technique. His issues was, quite frankly, his body. Lacked length, has shorter arms, not very athletic. The only thing technique-wise I could complain about is he needs to lower his pad level. It's a little too high when he first gets up at that point. Might have a little issue, especially with some of the longer arms that can knock him out pretty far there. But again, day 3 pick, that's what we expected for him overall. So not a great pick, not a horrible pick. Picked him right where he should have been picked there. Got 2 more picks for the Eagles here before we can move on to the Cowboys. 6th round, 185 overall, Johnny Wilson, wide receiver out of Florida State. And this is a guy that got a lot of attention for one thing specifically in this draft, and that's his height. If you watch the videos of Phillips, the cornerback that the Giants drafted there in the 3rd round, you'll see him against a very, very tall receiver at the Senior Bowl because people love showing that video after we drafted him. That's who it was, guys. So first off, Giant fans, let's not get excited that a 3rd round corner beat a 6th round receiver. That's to be expected. You got to think that's going to happen. But his size is the big thing that really gets people. He's 6'7". So my height, that's a tall guy. You don't have many people that height, even in the NFL. 237 pounds, 23 years old. Prior to playing at Florida State, which he played for 2 years, he also played 2 years at Arizona State as well. So keep in mind he's got the connection there to some other players as well, including Jaden Daniels there, the second overall pick. This past season, 10 games, 41 receptions, 617 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 76.0 PFF grade there. The prior year, he had a better year, 13 games, 43 receptions, 897 yards, and 5 touchdowns there. So a little bit down this year, but the big thing to look at is it's the height. Let's be very frank here, guys. It's the height. That's intriguing to teams because you can't teach height. You got it or you don't. As far as the pros, jump ball, red zone, and get separation there very quickly there, which is all again, that's what you're looking at. I'm kind of shocked, to be honest with you guys. He only had 2 touchdowns this past year with Florida State. This guy screams end zone jump ball guy because, again, the separation, the height, all the things that you need in that kind of scenario. As far as the cons, not very strong. I mean, again, looking at the size, 6'7", 237 pounds. Now, I'm the same height as Johnny Wilson. I got 30 pounds on him. Again, I'm going to get a little bit of dad bod going on, don't get me wrong. But I don't have the muscle of an NFL player. Muscle's heavier than fat, guys. So, he's skinny. He's a skinny guy. So, yeah, he had trouble also separating deep. He's got no long speed, too. This is a guy, same we talked about Will Shipley before. This is a guy that for 10 yards or so, he can get you there. But if you start going 20, 25 yards, you're going to catch up at that point because he doesn't have that top end speed. He's got trouble also with strong corners, again, because of the issues probably with that strength and with his lack of mass there. And he's also going to be, again, a very scheme-specific kind of guy because of that. If you can get him open and you can do short routes with him and try to get some yak yards afterwards or screen routes and those kind of stuff there, this guy's going to have some potential to do something in the NFL. I just wouldn't hold my breath on amazing things. But he's got the potential to be a decent backup potentially in this league. A guy who does a couple hundred yards of receiving a year consistently and, goes ahead and gets a role in special teams in some way to kind of cement that spot in there. So we'll see what happens with him there. Again, not a bad pick. I can't complain about a 6th-round pick and a guy that's got a special skill, even if his skill is just being tall. Last pick for the Eagles here, pick number 190, Dylan McMahon, 6'4", 305 pounds. It's a guard/center coming out of NC State, and he's just 23 years old there. Played 13 games each of the past 2 seasons, and this year had a 66.2 PFF grade, guys. I gotta say, I don't like to do talk trash about a 6th-round pick very often. Let's be very frank. There's not that much separating 6th-round picks and undrafted free agents here, but a 66.2 PFF grade at NC State is bad, guys. That's bad. If you do that at a big school, okay, maybe there's a technique issue, maybe there's something they think they can fix, and they like you for that reason. You did it at a small school. It's not very good. They must see something they think they can fix that's pretty obvious. Or they just might have the patience, and that's what it boils down to. They like some of the stuff the size-wise. Again, not a horrible size. A little bit light, but not a horrible size overall. And a little bit light you can fix. Here, eat some pasta, kid. Have some pasta. It's time for the pasta dinner again. Pros and cons-wise. Pros, lateral movement. He's actually pretty quick and nimble on his feet there for a bigger guy, which is one concern you have. Is if we go ahead and add some weight to him, we might lose that. Good against the stunts. Quick and gets to the second level. So if you're in that run game and your job is, hey, go ahead and get that linebacker, this is a guy who can go ahead and do that. He can move forward at that point there. As far as the cons, it's the strength is 100% the biggest issue with him there. Not a very strong player. Has issue with push-pull technique works on. They just go ahead and have issues. If you got one of these defenders going against him, it's got that push-pull technique. That's what they're using. That's what their strength is. You watch the tape. He fails at that multiple times trying to stop that in some games. Definitely an issue. And he's got little T-Rex arms. Again, it's not his fault, obviously. You can't affect that, but it's part of the equation here. So, but he's played, played center all last year, was a starting center for NC State. But he's played center along with both of the guard spots there. So he's a guy that can kind of play everywhere there. So, all righty. So, again, we got 2 picks for them that we didn't like. That's not too bad out of the big class they had there. So I think they had a pretty decent class, to be honest with you. Again, I hate to give the Eagles credit. It's not a bad draft class. So
thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.